What if Ki-Adi-Mundi survived Order 66? What would happen then? Let's find out. The battle droids broke apart like startled shards of living metal as Ki-Adi-Mundi pressed forward along the frost-choked bridge, a narrow artery of durasteel suspended between Maijito's towering crystalline spires. His lightsaber carved through the smoke, the blade's blue plasma trail refracted through ice and silicate surfaces, multiplying into prismatic echoes that transformed each strike into cascading light. Behind him came the cadence of Phase 2 boots, a squad from the 21st Nova Corps, their armor marked with the maroon of Galactic Marines. Marshal Commander Bakara moved 3 paces back. The wider corps, 36,000 Marines spread throughout Maijito's contested sectors, pressed the siege elsewhere. The flamethrower assembly rode high on the Jedi's back, 3 cylinders in vertical configuration, twin fuel tanks flanking a slimmer central canister of pressurized gas. The projection wand was secured to the rig's side frame, its hose coiled, dual pistol grips and ignition nozzle assembly waiting. The central canister's durasteel surface bore an etched symbol that caught Maijito's pale sunlight as he moved, a humanoid figure ascending through stylized flame. They had maintained this formation for hours, each trooper synchronized to the rhythm Mundi set through their shared tactical frequency and his own preternatural awareness. The siege had become ritual: advance, eliminate, consolidate. Then the Force screamed, a convulsion in the fabric of reality, a wrongness that tore through Mundi's awareness like a blade through living tissue. Betrayal. He pivoted, binary hearts constricting in his chest as the Marines froze mid-stride. Their helmets canted toward him in unison. No hesitation, no confusion, no flicker of the individuality he'd sensed in them for 3 years. Something had severed the connection. A curtain falling, a switch thrown. Through the Force came the Lord of the Light's judgment, certain and absolute. They are no longer yours. Mundi had suspected this for years, that beneath the camaraderie and obedience lived a structure too precise, too engineered, too perfect to be natural. Now that suspicion crystallized, they had never been his, just programmed tools, and someone else had activated the override. Blaster muscles rose in synchronized ascent. Mundi didn't wait for ignition. The Force detonated through his limbs. He launched skyward, extinguishing and holstering his lightsaber mid-vault, robes billowing as he arced above the bridge's span. Below, the Marines tracked his ascent, DC-15A barrels angling upward. His hands swept outward. From the pockets sewn under his sleeves came a torrent of blessed capsules, each no larger than a grain of sand, compressed incendiary charges marked with the Lord of the Light's sacred iconography. Hundreds of them, thousands, a cascading rain of divine retribution that he scattered with the Force over the entire kill zone below, spreading their trajectory to blanket bridge surface, armor, and the spaces between. Blaster fire erupted, azure bolts searing upward through the capsule rain, converging on the arc of his trajectory. None found their mark. The capsule struck, peppering helmets, shoulder plates, chest plastrons. Each microshell ruptured on impact, releasing compressed accelerant that met Maijito's atmosphere in an instant chemical reaction. Ignition. White-blue fire erupted across the bridge in a roaring wall of combustion, clinging, hungry, merciless. The Marines' screams rose as plastoid plating softened, liquefied, fused to the troopers beneath. Those who had already fallen to stray fire, Mundi pulled with the Force into the Inferno's heart, honoring them with the purifying flame. He landed in a crouch beyond the conflagration, the roar of combustion drowning all else. Only his wristcom betrayed the truth, dying screams on the tactical frequency, cut short as fire consumed helmet circuitry and melted transmitters into slag. A prayer formed on his lips, not for mercy, but for meaning, that the light would accept their passage, that their deaths would serve his Lord's unfathomable design. Mundi sensed the approach from beyond the purification, a bark speeder accelerating toward him through the flames at his back. He turned. The Marine navigated by terrain-following sensors alone, riding blind, smoke occluding visual targeting, heat distortion rendering thermal optics useless. But the Lord of the Light showed Mundi what he needed to see. He vaulted back through the smoke and sacred flame, landed on the bark's rear stabilizer vane, and kicked the rider off into the Lord's embrace. The speeder bucked under Mundi's control, then steadied. He opened the throttle, racing away as gunships and speeders converged from multiple vectors, repositioning to cut off his escape. The Lord of the Light guided him. Mundi throttled the bark to maximum velocity and pitched upward, weaving through blaster fire. At apex altitude, he released the remaining capsules. Thousands pouring from his sleeves, the Force scattered them across every pursuit craft, gunship hulls, cockpit viewports, speeder engine cowlings. The remainder fell toward the bridge below, Ignition cascaded through the three-dimensional battle space. Gunships ruptured into fireballs. Speeders tumbled, riders burning. He banked away from the conflagration, unopposed, the bike's engine thrumming beneath him as Maijito's crystalline spires blurred past. He sped into the cavern network carved beneath Jaigat's foundations, one of Maijito's crystalline banking cities, whose subsurface infrastructure schematics he'd memorized during the campaign's planning phase. The tunnels led him through frozen maintenance passages, toward where assault shuttles awaited redeployment. He emerged into the staging area. Several clones turned toward him, weapons rising. He reached into their minds with the Force before they could fire, smoothing away will and resistance. His voice carried the certainty of benediction. Accept the light. He unclipped the projection wand, and they did accept, standing motionless, weapons lowered, as the Lord of the Light embraced them. Their passage was quiet, willing. Mundi sealed the rig and boarded the shuttle. Moments later, he rose through Maijito's frigid atmosphere, the scars of betrayal shrinking beneath him like old wounds finally closed. His distress transmissions rippled through Republic frequencies. One voice responded, Senator Bail Organa of Alderaan. A rendezvous point. Coordinates, Polis Massa. Mundi entered the hyperspace calculations and engaged the Navi computer. Space fractured into blazing filaments as his shuttle carved through the veil between real space and the luminous conduits that threaded the galaxy, carrying him toward whatever his lord had prepared for him next. On the forsaken world of Kashyyyk, Master Yoda had survived the clone assault. After decapitating several would-be executioners, Tarful and Chewbacca had escorted him toward an escape route through the massive tree canopy. Stop. Stop, you animals. Arrived, we have, Yoda commanded, as they approached a concealed shuttle hidden deep within the forest, a vessel he had used for discreet travel to Kashyyyk's lunafields. Tarful lowered him to the forest floor. Chewbacca stepped back, bowcaster still tracking the surrounding canopy for threats. Gratitude, I owe you both. The Force will... Yoda paused mid-step, turning back toward Kachirho. Smoke pillars rose beyond the Roshar canopy, backlit by the setting sun. The lagoon beach where Commander Gree and his scout trooper had tried to execute him, where their bisected corpses now lay, cooling in the surf, sat kilometers distant, but the evidence of treachery stained the sky. He pulled out his datapad and finally accessed Republic HoloNet feeds. The broadcast headlines materialized. Jedi Rebellion crushed. Chancellor survives assassination attempt. Temple secured by loyal forces. Propaganda. Transparently false, but effective. Palpatine was Sidious. The Order, 9 centuries of tradition, millennia of lineage, lay shattered. Blind I have been. Foolish. A fool. His fists clenched, the Force swirling around him like a gathering storm. No, made a fool by the Force itself, I was. Rage built within the ancient master, like pressure in a thermal vent. His eyes shifted from their familiar green to something darker, more violent. Find this Lord Sidious and beat him to death, I will. Rip his arms off and beat him with it, I will. Tarful and Chewbacca stepped back as rage consumed the Grand Master. The air around Yoda seemed to shimmer and crackle, small debris trembling on the ground, as if repelled by an invisible field. His breathing came in sharp, irregular gasps. Then his left eye dilated. His hand clutched at his temple, a cerebral vessel, weakened by 9 centuries of life, strained beyond tolerance by the sudden surge of fury, ruptured deep within his brain. The hemorrhage was catastrophic. He collapsed onto the moss, limbs splaying outward. One rattling breath, then silence. The Wookiees approached cautiously. Tarful knelt, pressed 2 fingers to Yoda's throat. No pulse. The ancient Jedi was dead. Chewbacca retrieved Yoda's belt pouch, stamped with the Jedi Order's insignia, and emptied the credits into his bandolier. Several hundred Republic credits. The dead had no use for currency. He tossed the empty pouch onto Yoda's chest. They departed, vanishing into the Roshar forest to find another way off-world. Yoda's shuttle was useless without the access codes that only the Grand Master knew. Yoda's body lay in the clearing where it had fallen, the discarded pouch resting on his chest, its Jedi Order emblem turned skyward. His vacant eyes stared upward at the darkening sky, clouds gathering in the equatorial atmosphere above. Hours later, the rains came, then lightning, multiple discharge events converging on the shuttle's exposed thruster assemblies, the tallest conductive point in the open space. Currents surged through the chassis until the fuel cells ruptured and ignited. On Polis Massa, Senator Bail Organa sat across a conference table from Obi-Wan Kenobi, another Jedi he had pulled from the ashes of the Purge, while Mundi stood at the viewport, silhouetted against the transparent steel. Beyond, the asteroid's cratered surface stretched away in gradations of ash and stone. Above sprawled only the void, the unbroken darkness of space, unmediated by atmosphere, stars burning cold and distant. Kenobi was explaining the catastrophe, Palpatine's true identity as Darth Sidious, the Sith's return, the systematic destruction of the Jedi Order. And so the Sith have orchestrated everything, Kenobi concluded. Mundi spoke without turning, his reflection barely visible in the viewport surface. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium. Silence. Organa glanced between the two Jedi, uncertain whether to press the point. They talked for over an hour. Throughout, Mundi insisted on referring to Palpatine only as this dark side cultist, never acknowledging the title Darth Sidious as legitimate. Eventually, both Jedi reached consensus. They would return to Coruscant. The temple's communications beacon was broadcasting a recall signal, luring any surviving Jedi into an obvious trap. It had to be disabled. And if possible, this dark side cultist wearing a chancellor's robes needed to be confronted. An emergency Senate session, called by Palpatine, drew the majority of the temple's garrison to the legislative district. Mundi and Kenobi exploited the absence, entering through compromised checkpoints where clone sentries should have stood. The temple halls bore evidence of slaughter. They reached the communication center. Kenobi deactivated the recall beacon and recorded a replacement, setting it to broadcast that the temple had fallen and all survivors should avoid Coruscant. Obi-Wan turned toward the security console. "We should see what happened here," he said quietly, reaching for the playback controls. While Obi-Wan accessed the security holograms, Mundi waited with mild curiosity about which lightsaber wielder had slaughtered the younglings. The recordings revealed Skywalker kneeling before Sidious, the Chosen One embracing darkness. "It cannot be. I don't understand, Master. Why would he—" Obi-Wan's voice faltered. Mundi nodded thoughtfully, like someone watching a pattern complete itself. "He is the Chosen One, Obi-Wan," he replied. "Anakin Skywalker was born of the Force itself. His will is the Force's will. Whatever he does serves balance, even this. The Force was heavy with darkness, yes, but perhaps also heavy with us. 10,000 Jedi, all pulling at the current." He paused. "The Force works in circles, Kenobi. Anakin follows his path, the path the Force chose for him. We cannot question it. We must let him walk it." When Obi-Wan suggested manipulating Padme to locate Anakin, Mundi refused. Enough innocents have died. Obi-Wan blamed himself for his Padawan's fall. Mundi nodded solemnly. "Exile, then. You must go into exile." Obi-Wan accepted this with a quiet nod. "Preferably somewhere like Niamos," Mundi continued. "Or Canto Bight, perhaps." The faintest hint of a smile touched his lips as Obi-Wan looked up at him. "Resort worlds have excellent security. Very discreet. Perfect for an exile, Obi-Wan." To aid Obi-Wan's survival during this exile, Mundi provided access codes to several hidden accounts, his own, along with those of deceased council members. Millions upon millions of credits. "We won't be needing it anymore. You will." Obi-Wan opened his mouth, confusion beginning to form on his face. "Master Mundi, I don't understand." "You should also visit the corporate zones," Mundi continued, waving off the question. "Yagdul, perhaps. They have clinics that can alter your appearance, facial structure, eye color, whatever you need. Just in case some security camera interrupts your exile." Growing serious, Mundi concluded, "The order is finished, Obi-Wan. Who knows if it will ever be rebuilt? Anakin is the Force's child. His actions are its design. All these Jedi died because of that design. Let their deaths not be meaningless." He stopped, measuring his words. "We are all free to follow our own paths now. The order no longer binds us. I know mine. I am going to pay this Sith Lord a visit and inform him that the Sith Order died 1,000 years ago, and that he is simply an edgelord with a red lightsaber." "I'll come with you," Obi-Wan said immediately. "No, you are not powerful enough to face him, but I am." Mundi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Go live the life I never could. It is too late for me, but you are young. You still have time. Do not waste it." He tapped Obi-Wan's shoulder twice, almost paternal. "I hope to see you again, Obi-Wan, wherever souls like ours spend eternity." Mundi turned and walked deeper into the temple, the holy apparatus secured across his back. The corridor swallowed him, his footsteps receding into the distance, growing fainter, each echo stretching longer, until only silence remained. Obi-Wan knew where those lightless passages descended, through the city's foundations, down through ancient service tunnels that wound beneath Coruscant's surface like veins beneath skin, connecting the temple to 1,000 different sectors across the capital. It was obvious where Mundi was headed, the Senate district, to the man who called himself Emperor. In his office beneath the Senate Rotunda, Emperor Palpatine concluded a call with Anakin, who had just eliminated the separatist leadership on Mustafar and deactivated the droid armies. Palpatine found himself troubled by his new apprentice's intensity. All this "my lord" business. Was Anakin taking the role too seriously, or was he somehow mocking his new master? The insecurity dissolved when he sensed an approaching presence. He turned. Ki-Adi-Mundi. The guards pointed their pikes at him. He told them, "You are required elsewhere. You will forget ever being here." They lowered their pikes and walked out. Mundi turned his attention to the cultist. "Master Mundi, you survived," Palpatine observed. Mundi simply stated, "The Sith have been extinct for a millennium." Both Force users studied each other while Mas Amedda stood awkwardly nearby. With a subtle gesture from Mundi, the door sealed with a heavy, definitive thud. The quiet was then broken by a sharp metallic click as he unclipped the flamethrower's projection wand and leveled it. The false prophet's corrupted techniques, born of extinct orders and delusion, had never addressed the divine instrument, now leveled against him. Deep, substrate, foliated tar residue, a substance the unenlightened burned for fleeting ecstasy. Blind to the divine communion it offered the faithful, yet possessed of a terrible hunger for flame in its liquid state. Mundi had selected it for his sacred apparatus years prior, drawn by its threefold virtues. It burned with an intensity that surpassed all mundane fuels. Its acquisition demanded sufficient expense to honor the Lord of Light's glory, and its ascending vapors opened doorways in the mind through which the Lord's whispers became crystalline commands. But most beings use for pleasure, he used for communion. Now it erupted from his nozzle, dark as obsidian blood, viscous as sin, adhesive as fate itself. The ignition mechanism held deliberately silent. A pressurized tide of unlit sacrament arced through the air toward the Emperor's flesh. The pretender's features contorted into a rictus of profane wrath as blasphemous lightning tore from his outstretched hands, the false power of a pretender god. The crackling stream met the blessed tar mid-flight. Divine union. The chamber became sanctuary. Superheated tar fragmented mid-flight into 1,000 burning stars, each droplet a hymn of purification scattering through the polluted air. The false prophet raised his hands to deflect the Lord's judgment, casting it instead upon his servant, Mas Amedda, whose flesh received the blessing in full. His face accepted the kiss of flame. He collapsed, writhing in supplication upon the marble floor, his throat releasing prayers that began as screams and ascended toward silence. Mundi squeezed the trigger once more. Another anointing, another consecration. The blessed substance clung to the vice chair's chest, his arms spreading like sanctified oil across trembling flesh. His devotions grew quieter, softer, until at last they ceased entirely. The Lord of the Light had accepted him. The pretender ignited his crimson blade, that pathetic relic, impotent against the liquefied wrath of the divine. His robes caught flame. He tore at them with animal panic, casting burning imperial vestments aside until the self-proclaimed emperor was reduced to a man in his underclothes and undershirt, mortal weakness laid bare, waving his crimson blade uselessly against the judgment of flame. Mundi's fingers found the release mechanism. The fuel assembly fell from his shoulders, a deliberate unburdening, the twin reserve canisters clattering to the marble. He reached out through the Force, not as a Jedi but as a conduit, his will merging with the Lord's intention. The canisters rose, drifting through the smoke-choked air toward the chamber's center, where the false emperor cowered in his corner, escape routes already consumed by holy flame. The detonation switch called to him. He answered. The sacred vessels erupted outward in apocalyptic genesis, a pressurized wave of consecrated fire-coating walls, throne, and at last the pretender himself. The false emperor's body became a living pyre. His screams transcended language, devolved beyond consciousness itself, became the wordless keen of a soul recognizing its judgment. And then, at the final moment, the surrender, the acceptance. His voice rising not in protest but in supplication, joining the eternal chorus of those who had seen the light too late, yet embraced it nonetheless. The Lord of the Light had saved him. Mundi stood at the center of creation's fury, arms spread wide, accepting the Lord's ultimate embrace. Fire climbed his robes like eager disciples ascending toward truth. It touched his skin, not pain, but homecoming. He breathed deeply, welcoming the smoke, the heat, the dissolution of corporeal shell that meant nothing compared to the eternal radiance awaiting him. Anakin Skywalker returned to Padme's apartment to find her on the veranda couch with Dorme, her chief of staff. "Oh, there he is," Padme said with theatrical brightness. Dorme, roll out the golden carpet for my conquering hero. Dorme rose, shot Anakin a look of something akin to pity, and disappeared inside, wanting no part of what was to come. So, Padme began, her smile razor thin. How was your killing spree on Mustafar? Better than the temple, I hope. You got something on your mind, Padme? Everything I did for our family. For us. Her smile faded. If only I'd known my kill count made you this insecure, I'd have lied. Wait, what? Anakin interrupted. She explained that she thought he had orchestrated all this carnage to surpass her kill count. He protested that Palpatine was a Sith Lord who promised to prevent his visions of her death, that he had turned to the dark side and killed everyone to gain the strength to save her life. Padme leaned her head back against the couch and placed both hands over her face. She said nothing. Anakin's anger flared at her silence. You don't believe me? I was trying to... She took her hands off her face. No, there is no try, remember? Either do or do not. And here is what you did, Anakin. You destroyed our investments in multiple weapons manufacturing corporations. Their stocks have gone to shit thanks to you. You eliminated any chance I had of becoming Chancellor. You ruined your reputation and the institution you could have led. And for what? For f***'s sake, Anakin. Oh, okay. Let me apologize, Senator Amidala. I'm so sorry I made the mistake of caring about keeping you alive over some stock portfolio. I'm sorry I prioritized our family actually existing over election results. The visions showed you dying. What was I supposed to do? Watch it happen? Palpatine was the only one who said he could save you. Everything. The credits. The Chancellor position. My reputation. What does any of that matter if you're dead? I'm sorry I chose wrong, but I chose you. You know what, Anakin? I think I need some space. Fine. He threw up his hands and turned to leave. Hey, where are you going? She called after him. You said you wanted space. It's a very large apartment, she said, gesturing around them. Besides, where would you go? The temple? Her smile returned. Sit down. I'm not angry anymore. Well, I am, but I'm also glad you're here. Anakin stared at her, confused. Luckily for us, my love, the Force was with us, she continued. That Palpatine of yours set himself on fire and died. Took that Ameda with him. What? He's dead, Anakin, dead, she laughed. No, that's not true. That's impossible. How will I save? Padme pulled out a large pillow from under her robes and tossed it onto the couch. The twins were born while you were away. Anakin stared at the pillow, then at her flat stomach, then back at the pillow. They're on Naboo. 2 of them, Luke and Leia. She met his eyes. You were too busy killing people. Couldn't reach you. You missed it. Anakin's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the couch beside the discarded pillow, shock replacing confusion. The babies were born. Padme was alive. The dreams... Oh. They weren't real, Anakin. The visions... I'm fine. Our children are fine. They talked. Anakin explained. He had to be sure, couldn't risk losing her. The visions felt so real. Padme listened, and despite everything, she felt nothing but love for him. This terrified man who'd burned down the galaxy trying to save her. Then Anakin remembered. Wait, you said Palpatine. How did he die? Told you, Padme said. Set himself on fire. Took Ameda too. Why would he do that? Who knows? The man was unstable. Forensics pulled mass traces of cracked tar from the scene. Half the office was coated in it. Maybe he was celebrating his victory, got too high, and lit up his whole supply. Or maybe Ameda lit it. Who knows? They're both dead. Anakin sat thinking, thoughts circling without landing. The pieces refused to fit. It couldn't have... Anakin. The room was sealed from inside. Security confirms no entry, no exit. Just Palpatine and Ameda. Forensics recovered the charred remains of 2 bodies. That's the entire accounting. Her comlink pulsed. She checked the display, then stood. It's Mothma. She looked at him. Just stay here for a few days, okay? Lay low until we can get a handle on things. Don't go anywhere. Don't talk to anyone. She leaned down, cupped his face, and kissed him. Brief, almost perfunctory. I need to go. She spoke into her wristcom. Dorme, can you come out here, please? On my way, came the reply through the small speaker. Dorme emerged moments later. Keep an eye on Anakin, please. He's trying to solve Palpatine's murder. Maybe help him with it. Padme gathered her cloak from a nearby chair. Sure, Dorme said. Padme disappeared up the spiral staircase toward the landing pad where her ship waited. Anakin watched Coruscant's lights flicker to life in the cityscape below. Dorme approached and settled beside him. You feeling okay, Annie? I think so. Want to see pictures of them? The twins? Dorme pulled up her datapad, swiping through images. Oh, before I forget, your Ahsoka survived. Made contact. She's on her way here. We told her you were missing. And before you ask, yes, she bought it. Spoke to her myself. Oh, well, that's good. Thanks, Dorme. Don't worry about it. Anakin smiled a bit. He didn't think she'd be targeted. Wasn't even a Jedi anymore. Huh. Maybe he did deserve to burn. Though there was someone else. Someone he couldn't quite place. A presence he should account for, but couldn't recall. It nagged at him like a word on the tip of his tongue. He'd remember later, he thought. Dorme continued swiping. Anyway, Luke has your eyes, and Leia's got Padme's attitude already. But Anakin's mind had already drifted back to the mystery. 2 bodies. Sealed door. Deep substrate foliated tar residue coating half the office. The forensics report said no entry, no exit. Just Palpatine and a meta. But that didn't... He could turn this into a hollow film. It's not like he had anything better to do now.